Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Discovering Dawson's Creek on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Morgan hasn't seen TV. We continue on with season 2 in Cape Side, episodes 3 and
Yes.
4. Today we have Alternative Lifestyles and Tamara's Return. Very excited to see Tamara's Return because it's the return of me claiming the woman should be in prison constantly,
Yes,
all the
that is
time.
a fair assessment of what should happen to that woman. She's a nice lady, but she's very, very wrong.
Very, very wrong. Very,
Yeah.
very, very wrong. It's not good. It's not good at all. Nice to be back on Discovering
Yes.
Dawson's Creek as always. I'm enjoying the continuation of the regular continuation
Yes.
of this show as we plow on through season 2
Dose.
and Dawson and Joey's relationship that already hits bumps in the road, Jeannine. And I mean, come on, they
Yes,
never have nice things for any
immediately.
length of time in Cape Side, can they? Everything has to
Yeah,
go wrong
no,
all the damn
no.
time.
Good times can't last very long before something kind of comes along and messes it up. So, yeah, we'll see, where Dawson and Joey are headed after kind of what we've seen in these 2 episodes. But
Yes.
we see Pacey all finding some romance himself beyond
Very
Tamara.
true.
So yeah, we're happy for that because we love Pacey. He's a great character, and I hope you're
We
enjoying
do.
him so far.
Very much so. Very, very much so. But we know how the structures of this show goes now, don't we? We
Yes.
know it's going to be up and down and happiness
Round
and
and
sadness and,
round, and breakups and
round and
makeups,
round.
and
And I
switching
mean,
and
come on.
swatching. Yes.
If it wasn't genuinely interesting and, if you weren't emotionally invested, it would just be kind of boring. And I mean
Yes.
that in a loving way, but the structure of shows like
Ye
this, the
yeah.
soapy teen drama, just it's gonna be like, oh, people get together, or they break up,
You're gonna
oh,
break up,
it's
yeah.
somebody else, or it's break up, oh, it's ups and downs. And I mean, come on, can we not have any sort of just linear trend?
Yes, but
It
they
has
do.
to be
Yes.
always round and waves and all this kind of craziness. Yes, it does, I suppose, because it's how it keeps people invested over a
Exactly,
span of 6
exactly.
seasons.
Yes, but I think how they do it, they really pepper in some interesting storylines, some great character dynamics. We get some
They
strong
do.
character moments. So amongst the melodrama, there's a lot of like good meat with our characters happening as well. So we can,
Yeah,
overlook the kind of back and forth trend of everything that happens.
yeah. You need that, and Dawson's Creek certainly does provide that. If you don't have that
Yeah.
in this kind of show, your show isn't remembered, and Dawson's Creek obviously is constantly remembered and constantly referred to as one of the very best in its genre of
Yeah.
TV, really,
Yes. Yes.
which is obviously credit to everybody involved, as we've talked about many, many times. I do think we have to say a particular well wish, though, to
Yes.
begin
Y-
this episode with some news
Yes.
that's come out.
Yes, so recently it's been, out that, Dawson himself, James
Mhm.
Vanderbeek, got a diagnosis of colorectal cancer, something I'm somewhat familiar with. My brother-in-law, is a survivor of colorectal cancer. One of my best friends, Kevin Smets, also had a bit
Mm,
battle with colorectal
yeah.
cancer, and came out on the other side okay. I guess this diagnosis came about a year ago, so he's been
Hmm.
having this battle privately. But he talks about doctors saying everything is very hopeful, looking good. When he found out, he was at the same stage as Kevin and my brother-in-law, so
Okay.
um, you know, very much hopeful for a good recovery. And since it was a year ago, so obviously he's doing well. He has 6 kids to live for, I believe.
Yeah.
So, he has a whole farm of a family going on. And so I've seen kind of bits of his people interview, obviously a lot to live for and fight for. So he says his doctors say he has every, every hope of just a clear recovery from everything. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is hopeful news. We
Yes.
obviously send James Van Der Beek our best.
Yeah.
We would not have Dawson's Creek without
Without Dawson, yeah. Despite,
certainly not.
how we may feel about him on certain times.
Well, yeah, but
Uh,
that's the character. That's not Van Der
yes,
Beek's
it's not
fault.
James Van Der Beek. But yes, well wishes to him for sure.
Absolutely, we certainly hope to continue to hear positive news surrounding that, as people do battle it, as
Yeah.
you've just evidenced. People do
Yes.
battle it. People do beat it
Yes.
quite comfortably in the
Yeah.
end. So that's always nice. But yes, all the best to James Van Der Beek as we begin our
Yeah.
discussion today, Jeannine, with season 2, episode 3. Alternative lifestyles. Get the
Yes.
binder out. What have we got involved today?
Yes. Okay. Episode 203, Alternative Lifestyles. The Last Seduction. All of
Oh,
these synopses open with a very bolded kind of opening statement. So this one says, The Last Seduction. A class project uh, pairing with Dawson provides Jen with a perfect opportunity to use her powers of seduction to draw him in
mm,
away from Joey, while Pacey's teaming with Andy finds them at each other's throats. Meanwhile, Mitch is doing his best to repress his anger towards Gail for her affair, but in desperation decides that an open marriage is the only way to get back what they've lost. Um, yeah.
yeah, he does. It's another tough one for Mitch, I think, in a
Yeah.
few scenes. He is trying his best. We've seen him try his best in season 2 already.
Yeah.
Try to be patient, try and be kind of, I suppose understanding is the wrong word. It's trying to keep something that is still there.
Yeah,
Dawson
but he can't help feeling the
understand
way
it.
he feels. Yes, I mean, and a big, kind of a moment that happens is Gail finding out that he's been talking to divorce lawyers when
Yeah,
he has constantly tried to reassure her that everything's fine, but when she tries to be intimate with him, he constantly rejects her advances. So she's getting a lot of mixed signals. So, I feel for Gail in the fact that she's basically like, shit or get off the pot. If you want a divorce, just tell me you want a divorce so I
yeah,
can figure out how to navigate it. But don't tell me everything's fine and then you're rejecting me at every turn and talking to divorce lawyers behind my back. So I get her feelings of frustration because you understand where he's coming from. You feel for him. He's the one who was scorned,
yeah.
but he needs to figure out what he wants so that she can just know how to move forward. She's not,
It is.
trying to take away or underplay what she did. She's trying to make it right, but if he can't, you know, if he doesn't want to make it right with her, then he needs to just say that. So I get her frustration in the situation as well.
Yeah, it's the tough situation of it because you completely understand his point of view of,
Yeah.
wait, you're telling me to be honest?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
pot kettle black, Gale.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on.
Yes.
What are you doing? And there's distance there now. They're
Yeah.
doing separate things. They're going out,
Yes. So this
doing
open
separate
marriage,
things.
Thursday date night, Dawson's very just like, what is going on with my parents? Like, I can't keep up. Yeah. So I like that we're getting, stuff with his parents and even I love when we get a little bit more of the Bessie Joey relationship, which we get a really good interesting thing
We
here
do. Yeah.
when Joey in the assignment she ends up getting the assignment to be a single mother who's
Yeah,
successful.
in the
And
school.
yeah, and so Bessie's like, "Well, I'm practically, Bodhi's never here,
Mhm.
so I'm practically um a single mother who runs a business. You could talk to me. What do you want to know?" And she's like, "Oh, you're not successful. You can barely get your stuff together. I'm gonna go find somebody else." And Bessie's really hurt by this, and
Understandably so. Joey's really
yeah,
kind of
harsh
nasty to
about it.
Bess.
Yeah, and just makes her feel like a complete failure and that she's not good enough or successful enough to want to kind of mentor or talk to her about
Which
what
is the
her
last thing
assignment.
she needs,
Yeah.
given that everybody in Cape Side already kind of looks down on her.
Exactly. Yes, for her life and all of these things, being with a black man and all this, whatever.
There's a
So
lot of alternative
the lifestyle,
lifestyles going on
yes,
in this
yes,
episode, isn't there?
exactly.
I
So,
mean, what a
yeah,
phrase that is. Way to sound like it's the late 90s and you're talking
right?
about, non-hetero white people.
Yes, we will get there. Trust me.
We were
That's all I'll say.
more alternative lifestyles going on in
Yes. Oh,
Dawson's
yes, we
Creek.
will
I
get
really
there.
hate the phrase though. It's such a it feels like such a pandering
Yeah.
like little phrase, doesn't it?
Yes, to like, for a parent who doesn't know anything about gay people to describe them as kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you mean alternative
y-
lifestyle? What do you mean
yes, lifestyle choice. Yeah.
a
Um,
lifestyle choice, yeah.
exactly. Um,
Stupid cretin. No.
Yeah, that's what it's giving. But yeah, so I like that we do get this interesting dynamic between those two, and by the end, Bessie admits that, that really hurt her feelings, and so Joey
Yeah.
kind of has to rebound and tell her, "No, I'm sorry. You're a great mother, you're great, at what you do, and I'm proud to have you as my sister and all these kinds of things." So I like when we get those moments with the two of them really showing that relationship, which we've gotten a few episodes recently that really
Mm,
dove into that dynamic, which
definitely
was
a bit
nice.
more.
Yeah.
Definitely a bit more between the two of them. I like that too.
Yeah.
I like that Bessie's not afraid to be equally as cold and harsh to Joey.
Oh, yeah, like, she fires her at a certain point. She's like,
Yeah,
You're done at the ice house. You obviously, have more important things going on. So, we don't need you anymore," kind of thing.
because
Yeah.
you need a bit of equal back and forth in that kind of thing to
Yeah.
come together okay in the end. If one person is constantly kind of, I suppose, accepting of
Yeah.
harshness or unnecessary harshness, then it kind of just gets pounded down and pounded down and pounded down, and it is much more difficult to kind of respond back from or bounce back from.
Yeah.
Um, so the fact they at least both have a bit of nastiness towards each other, but then realize that that was way too much to each other equally,
Yeah, and kinda come
and then
together by the end. Yeah.
actually have the discussion, um, is nice. But Joey's obviously got more things going on as well because
Yes.
already Jeannine in alternative lifestyles, um, she's upset in a relationship with Dawson. I don't quite see how, to be honest with you.
I
Well,
mean, I
maybe I
feel
do
like
see how.
I feel like her reasoning for, maybe wanting to distance herself at this time from Dawson or having this conflict with Dawson makes more sense than why Jen, like, ultimately broke up with Dawson.
Absolutely, it
Um,
does make more sense.
yeah,
However, wasn't this the exact reason that she wanted to be with him in the first place? Because they were so close, because it was always them two,
yeah,
and it was never going to be anybody else. It's
yeah.
Dawson and Joey, and it's Joey and Dawson, and now all of a sudden that you're together, the
She's
fact that it's Dawson and Joey and Dawson, and as always has been, isn't what we want. It sounds a
I
little bit
think
silly.
yes, we took a whole season to get us here now, like, at one kind of, hard moment,
Three
there's trouble.
episodes.
I mean, yeah, and, like, even the first episode where they got together had a little bit of fighting, but I guess, I
Did.
mean, if you think about it,
I mean, Dawson's not great,
maybe
no.
that's just a kind of background signaling for why maybe there's trouble for them because they have this conflict at the movies with Jen and all of that in their
Mm.
first date. Then the second episode, he reads her diary and betrays her trust.
Yes,
So
yeah.
there's things that are
There is
kind of
always something
showing
going. It's always Dawson's fault as well.
yes, so
I mean,
there's
no.
been so it's not like out of so then you if you look at that, then you kind of can realize it's probably just not out of nowhere. It's been building to show that maybe they're better as friends than they are as a couple. So
Yeah,
how this kind of shift happens is when Joey goes to she finds a successful single mother to do her project on. She meets
yeah.
this um this woman who, I can't
That's
like, she's
Professor, right?
she, like, does art and things like that, and, like, um, uh, does kind of interior design type stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
And so she does like art classes and things like that.
Mm.
So all of that, she invites Joey to a lecture about an artist, and Joey finds herself really interested by this. She brings Dawson, and he's just like, I don't get it. I don't like it. It's kind of silly," and really kind of dismissive of her appreciation for this new thing. And then
And
when she
that's the one
decides to
thing
go
you just don't wanna be. You know,
Yes, you see
you
that she's
must
interested in it,
yes,
you
you
can
must
say
show
what you
interest yourself,
yeah,
Dawson.
yes,
That's the point.
or, at least show appreciation for why she likes it, even if you
Exactly.
don't. So then when she decides to go to this, like, beginner's art class, she starts to really get into it and finds herself enjoying it, and this woman's really inspiring to her and all of these things. So when she shows Dawson, again, he's very dismissive, kinda writes it off as a hobby, kinda laughs at her for thinking she's, "Oh, great artist, da, da, da," kinda thing, and
Mm.
just, oversimplifying it, and she's just like, "Well, what if this is my passion? Like, I don't know, I haven't really found anything that really has sparked an interest like this before in my whole life, and I'm always trying to find a way to do something to get out of this place, just get out of this town, and I really don't
Yeah.
have anything for myself." And he doesn't seem to fully understand that, so, that's, I think, where her frustration starts coming in.
Yeah,
Um,
which is understandable
yeah.
completely. I mean, again, support individual interests. It's not all about you, Dawson, all
Yeah.
the time, as much as he likes to think it is.
Yeah.
Um, and he doesn't do that. He just doesn't do that. He doesn't even seem to want to do that, whether he does it or not. And I mean, like, at least have the intention to
Yeah.
say that I want to support your interests, even if that takes time to fully realize in his own head. Like, that's okay.
Yeah, but you see her passionate for something that's not you for the first
Mm,
time in a long time, and you're really not encouraging it. You're just kinda, like, thinking it's just this light hobby, but she's actually,
yeah.
like, excited, and you look back and you're like, "Yeah, Joey doesn't really have a thing of her own." Her whole thing
You
is
know,
Dawson, pining for Dawson, wanting to be with Dawson, but now that she has Dawson, what does she have for herself? He has his filmmaking and all of this. She really didn't have anything. So there's groundwork that was laid that I think makes sense to her having this conflicted feeling about Dawson kind of being this all-consuming thing and her not
yeah,
having something for herself. So she does end up kind of being a little bit distant to him, and then by the
it
end of
does.
kind of their relationship, she the episode and her kind of you know dealing with these feelings, tells him she has to kind of choose. She's in this state of kind of deciding, do I need to go off and not be with you to find myself and find what I can do for myself, or do I stay with you and my whole life will be consumed with Dawson and I really won't have my own thing. um
It's so intense, a philosophical debate with oneself's brain.
yes.
At the point of not that long into a relationship, you're 16, like, can't think
Yeah, it doesn't
anything
really
else
have to be that
anymore.
deep. Yeah.
Does it
Yeah.
have to be that deep?
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't
It
know if you
always is
also
in Dawson's Creek.
I don't know if you also picked up on the fact that she ended up taking Jack with her to one of these exhibits, and he was
Oh,
very
that's
interested in the art and,
yeah.
was really inspired by it, and she could talk to him about these things, and he was really excited about it as well, and, um, you know, told her, "If you're having trouble with your drawings, draw something you love, something that inspires
Yeah.
you in this whole thing." And that's what kind of did it for her because she ended up drawing Dawson, and so that
Mm.
just clicked it in her head that, like, he's all consuming and, you know, she can't find who she is because she only knows herself to be somebody completely tied to Dawson.
Yeah.
But yes, so we kind of notice looks that Jack gives her and things like that, and him really being interested in the art and, being able to, appreciate this newfound spark that she's having for it where Dawson doesn't. So I don't know if you clocked what was kind of going on there with Jack and how he's feeling towards.
A little bit, but I didn't want to acknowledge it because I was just a little bit head in my hands going, we can't be having changes in relationship dynamics already. It's a little bit too quick for
Yeah.
me. We need to
Okay.
let things just sit a bit,
Sit. Yeah.
please. I would like things to just be, and okay, maybe work through issues, sure, like that's fine, Joey and Dawson. But the constant need to just switch everything all the damn time annoys me with these shows, Jeannine.
Yes, I
It
know, I
annoys me,
know, I
and
know.
I just like things to be
Yes.
sometimes.
Well, that's why I'm trying to show you that the groundwork was laid for Joey to have these feelings. We've had 3 episodes of
Oh,
them
it was.
having conflict every time and really paying attention to the fact that, yeah, she didn't really have her own thing. It was always
Like, I would just
something
rather things
connected to
not be.
Dawson. Then
Like,
jumping back and forth and all of this and
yeah,
round and round. Yeah, I get
just
that.
make
I
it
totally get that.
6 seasons of will they, won't they, rather than,
They're
you
together,
know,
then they're not, then they're together, then they're
let
not,
let
then they're
let's think about another very famous TV couple from the 90s, right? Friends, Ross and Rachel.
yeah.
Yeah? That was
Mhm.
a will they, won't they. That was back and forth. Over the course of 10 seasons, though, I think it ultimately went back and forth 4 times.
In
Were
10 seasons.
were ones in 10 seasons, and a lot of that show was not focused on their relationship with each
Yeah.
other, yet was a constant. The entirety of Dawson's Creek really is always kind of focused on the relationship between these 2,
Yeah.
and in 1 season and 3 episodes seems to have already gone forth or gone back, forth, and back again,
Well,
which
I wouldn't call it back and forth and back because they never have broken they still haven't broken up. They're trying to
no,
navigate
it
this
feels like
but they're trying to navigate this new dynamic for the 2 of them. They've been friends their whole lives, and now this is a whole different shift, a whole different dynamic for the 2 of them. And it's like they don't even really converse all that much anymore. I think the episodes have set up it's very much this chemical constantly making out
yeah.
situation between the 2 of them. Um, so yeah, I think they lay enough groundwork that I think if things shift going forward, it's not feeling like it's coming out of nowhere. So I think they're
I
trying to make
mean, I get
sense.
it.
I think they're trying to make sense of what's to come potentially.
Yeah, I get it. I get
But
it.
I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. Um, and then we move on to Pacey. Him and
Mm.
Andy's relationship kind of growing. They've become a little bit more flirty, mixed into their antagonistic relationship, which, that kind of relationship is also its own strange form of flirting. Um,
It is, yes, but it's one I'm a little more interested in,
yes.
admittedly.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be the start, I think, of Pacey and his academic journey because 'cause we've seen him be a
Okay.
slacker and fail
Yeah.
classes and all of these things and not really care about school. But when he had Tamara, she was actually getting him to, like, study and do
Mm.
good in school because he had those scandalous incentives. And Andy is actually gonna kind of become that for him as well. She's really gonna care about him doing well and helping him academically and make him kind of really care about doing well in that aspect and
Well,
feel
look,
proud in that degree.
he
So,
doesn't
yeah,
have
I think
support from anywhere else, does he? So he needs.
no. So this assignment ends up being kind of the first step towards that kinda thing.
Yeah, and it's an
they're
odd assignment. It's a like,
yeah.
I don't remember her doing anything like this. Maybe it's a highly American thing. I don't know if you
Yeah, so
remember
I
her
think
doing
it was
anything.
like a econ class, like economics. So they're paired up to kind of make a budget for themselves based on their income and their family status and all of these kinds of things. So
That is
yeah, they
useful, sure.
yeah. So and he says, try to go out and get real world examples. So they go and look at apartments and things like that. And, when they do kind of have this argument shift where they end up not really working together, because ends up kind of insulting her because he just assumes she's this rich girl.
That's right.
And yeah, so that kind of comes up. And when he calls her out on it and says, like, you wouldn't understand, you're just rich, so and so, she gets really offended and he doesn't know why. Um, and ultimately ends up talking to Jack and saying, "Have you seen your sister? Like, she's mad at me." Tells him what she said, and he's like, "Dude, just like go easy on her. Yeah, she drives a Saab, but that's the last kind of bit of money we had from our failed dynasty.
Yeah.
We were in a good place for a while, but now things aren't so great. Why do you think I'm working here at the ice house?"
Mm.
Um, so just cut her some slack. And so then Pacey kind of gets the sobering realization that he was too hard on her and he made these assumptions. And ultimately, they go into class. Andy thinks, she ended up kind of just doing the project by herself. But then here comes in Pacey. He ended up doing the whole project for the two of them. So we're seeing this nice academic initiative from Pacey,
Yeah.
very impressive, and him making these amends with Andy in this way.
Yeah,
Um,
the desire and the proof of a good nature towards
yeah.
her.
Yes, that he does care and, like, he realizes what he said was wrong and he wants to make it right with her. And then we kinda see them joking around together, leaving school, and somebody's
Yeah.
watching them in their car.
Mm. Mm.
Yes, but
Cue
before
episode 4, but no.
yes, but before we get there, we also have to talk about Jen still
We
kinda
do.
bopping
Crazy,
around, being
lunatic,
scandalous with
away with her.
Abby. Yes, still being scandalous with Abby, Abby encouraging her to seduce Dawson still, and
Turning
when they
very
get
unlikable for my money, Jeannine.
yes, because she's with Abby. And so, yeah, Jen gets paired with Dawson in this project where they have to pretend to be married. So,
Conveniently.
during these alone study sessions, she's getting really
Mm.
a little too flirty, and Dawson's doing like good. He's like still trying to be nice, but she's kind of
He
coming
is,
on a
you
little
know.
too strong, and ultimately like her advances just aren't working. And in the final kind of working on the project, she comes over in this like sexy dress and really tries to, can I spend the night and this kind of talk. He's like, I don't think that's a good idea, and she
Let
really
let's
puts all
just
the
call
cards on
out
the table.
how inappropriate this is from
Yes.
Jen,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Because it genuinely did annoy me a little bit. And I know
Yeah.
it's all the influence from Abby, and we know Abby's terrible and very and likes to
Stir up
manipulate
mess. Yeah.
situations
Yeah.
and do all this. Stir up mess. Yes, absolutely. But why are we doing this? We had a changed Jen in Cape Side. That was the point of Jen
Yeah.
coming to Cape Side originally.
Yes.
And it was working and it was fine and it was good. And we were having building of bonds even after her and Dawson's breakup. There were
Yeah.
building of bonds between Jen and the other three main characters.
Yeah, and I like that she does admit that she misses being on the outside of that and
Right?
that being part of, her hurt feelings as well. That she's not part of that foursome anymore.
But I don't understand, and maybe again this is a fact of I must remember these characters are 16 and
Yeah.
not the age the actors look
Yeah, I
because
think actually a couple of times they say 15, so I think they're still 15.
well, maybe they're still 15 then. I mean, it's crazy, but I must remember they are still that age
Yeah.
and are therefore more susceptible to flirt around with their own thoughts and
Yeah.
personalities and things like that than if they are actually the age the actors actually are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it's still annoying, and it's still very, very
Yeah. And so
um,
Dawson, ultimately all these advances, Dawson finally calls her out on it and kind of
he
says,
does.
"You're just throwing yourself at me. It's kind of sad." And, she gets embarrassed and feels dumb, but she tries to like play it off very confidently. But yeah, it's just not a good look the way she's just
We
constantly
don't need
throwing
to put
herself
on
at him.
acts,
Yeah.
we don't need to put on acts, we don't need to put on performances.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with just genuine honesty, and there's always
Yeah.
something wrong with genuine honesty in teen drama, isn't there? Because nobody can ever just be honest with each other. We always have
Yeah.
to pretend things
Yes.
or never speak to each other properly. I mean, how many shows and movies do we come across where the main conflict could have been solved if somebody just spoke to somebody else?
Yeah. That would have made things a whole lot easier. But
It can be any
and
genre of
yeah.
movie or TV as well, that.
Yeah.
It's insane, and this is very much that. Like, just actually say
Just
words
talk. Yeah.
that you mean, that you believe,
Yeah.
and they will say words back to you that they mean and that
Yeah.
they believe,
Easy
and
peasy.
then we will go we will ultimately come to either a compromise or say, "I understand you, and I understand you too. Let's move on,
Yeah.
or let's create something again." Or there's always a conclusion that's one of like four.
Yeah. I mean, just say, "Is there a chance for us?" "No." "Okay, move on." But no, she still keeps pushing it and just making things
Clarity.
awkward and uncomfortable.
Clarity is
And
important.
yes, yes. So this only kind of pushes her further down the kind of scandalous hole with Abby when it
Yes, and
doesn't
it's
quite
it's
work
it's
out.
not
Yeah.
good. It's a bad episode for Jen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good episode for Pacey. It's a bad episode for Dawson and Joey in terms
Yeah.
of
They're
relationship.
where they stand kind of in their relationship.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Oh, because we like Pacey, we like it. Yay.
Yes.
However, obviously, the sequel bait of the ending of the episode. Who's that in the car? Hmm.
Yeah, looking
What's
at them
going
in the
on
rear
there?
little side
How,
mirror, it's
how,
Tamara.
how is this person back still allowed in Cape Side without being taken immediately to prison?
Because Pacey said it didn't happen, covered for her, and so it's just a scandalous
Drivel.
rumor
There are no
to the
cameras.
townsfolk. Of
They don't. I thought this last time. Is there no cameras in Cape
No,
Side?
no, there's no cameras. It's a safe
No cameras
town.
in Cape Side.
Yes, it's a happy,
Ah,
safe
some
town.
people would say it's a safer town with more cameras.
Well, it's a little seaside town. I think they're not worrying too much about the crime. So,
Let's have a discussion on the pros and cons of CCTV.
yes.
Um, as we get into episode 4, season 2, episode 4,
Yes.
Tamara's Return.
Yes. So episode 204, Tomorrow's Return. Express yourself.
Oh,
When Joey pursues her natural gift as an artist, a chasm develops between her and Dawson as he can't relate to this new interest, while Jack displays a new side beyond his lack of waitering skills as a sensitive art lover. Meanwhile, Tamara Jacobs' unexpected return to Capeside throws Pacey for a major loop, just as he and Andy discover a common ground and move past their sadistic sparring.
yes.
So I
It
think we
does
did
throw
get
a loop.
Yes, I think we did get a little mixed up and talked a little bit about what happens in this episode and the last episode, because I think it
We did,
started
sure, but I mean,
Yes, it
it's
started
one
with Joey's art
story.
interest and kind of continued in the second episode, so I think it got a little muddled in our minds, but,
It's still
y
one story. We're
yeah,
doing
it's
both
still the
episodes
same.
on this show. It
Yes,
makes sense.
it's still the same story that happens, but yes, so, Tamara coming back definitely gums up the works for the impending, relationship that's kind of brewing between Andy and Pacey.
It's the last thing he needs because
Yeah.
he knows he can't drag himself away, and he
He
does
tries,
try.
he
He
does
can't.
try. He does.
It's
Um
natural, it's primal, it's instinctual. Tamara is this goddess creature who should be in prison,
Yeah, but there's
who he
also a really
can't get away
interesting
from.
but there's also a really interesting moment between Tamara and Mitch.
There
Um,
is, there really is.
yeah, so I like when we have moments like this with side characters and we actually take a beat to talk to them and it's not just about our 4 leads. Um, yeah, because Mitch has been trying to make this restaurant happen. She's back there to sell a warehouse property that she has, and he's looking at it to potentially be for the restaurant. So she meets him. He's with Dawson, and he says, "Oh, the lady's meeting me to look at the warehouse right now." And he sees it's Miss Jacobs, and oh my gosh, Miss Jacobs. Oh, hi, Dawson. This
Yeah.
kind of thing. So as soon as Dawson gets to school, he's like, "I gotta tell Pacey." Oh my gosh, Pacey, and he tries to tell him, but he can't. And then Andy shows up. He said, "We really can't tell him." And Pacey runs off, and he never gets to tell him.
Now,
So what
I
is
question
yeah.
whether um, telling him would have been a good idea at all.
Well, I think it would've, considering how when he does actually see her on the street, it is very awkward. He maybe would've been more aware to look out for her, or he could've because in before he knows, he makes these plans with Andy to kinda go walk around together and just hang out after school. And that's when he does run into her, when he's kind of made these plans to hang out with Andy. And it's very awkward, and then he kind of runs out on the plans because he just doesn't know what to do with himself. So had he kind of had that knowledge, he probably wouldn't be making these plans with Andy and screwing her over ultimately, because he would have needed that time to process things.
I mean, yeah, okay, but also, do we just ride our luck that he doesn't see her out in the street? I mean, he does, obviously, that's not
Yeah,
the point,
yeah.
but why it's Dawson's mentality I'm questioning, as usual, of, "I must tell Pacey about his
Well, yeah, but no,
ex-criminal girlfriend."
Pacey was upset that, like, he didn't tell him, and he was like, "Well, I tried, but you were down the hall." So Pacey would wanted Dawson to tell him.
That's
So,
only because he did eventually see her. If he hadn't have seen her, nobody would have known, and it would have been fine.
I suppose. So Andy clocked that something was weird, so she didn't know,
It's the problem
which
with a small town, you always see each
right?
other.
Yes. Um, and it leads into a really cute scene where she goes to Dawson after Pacey kinda ditches her
Yeah.
and tells him in this roundabout way that she likes Pacey, and if he's mentioned her, and he's like, "No, he hasn't
Mm.
mentioned her, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't like you, it just might be that he hasn't told me yet." So
Might as well have started fluttering her eyelids and going like this.
yes, because she bumped into Dawson while he was doing his laundry and, like, picks up a pair of his boxer shorts that fell, and she's, like, twisting them around and, like, nervously just, like, playing with them because she's, like, talking to him about her crush on Pacey, and she doesn't, like, wanna admit it because obviously
While
they, like
fondling
they
Dawson's underwear.
right? And obviously she's pretend because 'cause they've had this whole kinda dynamic of hating each other, so she
Mm.
hates to admit that she likes him. And Dawson informs her, "No, he hasn't said anything but him, your antagonistic dynamic is very much his style of flirting. So just so you know,
Yeah.
kind of thing." So she feels really
It's
hopeful.
working.
Yes. So she feels really hopeful, but ultimately she does read a weird dynamic between him and Tamara. So ultimately
Yes,
he ends
which
up
is understandable because it's
yeah.
pretty sudden, pretty impactful, and
Yes, like, he doesn't know
his
what to do
obvious
with
preference.
himself. Yes,
Yeah.
and so ultimately he ends up going to her house, her old house, and she's just there kind of looking at the waves on the beach, and he goes and he talks to her, and they talk about how, yeah, it's probably gonna be awkward every time we see each other, and
Yeah.
she talks to him about this, writer who, um, talked about kind of like there's so much said in the silence kinda thing.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how they end up spending their time. So they end up just standing watching at the ocean, having this kind of quiet moment, and mentally kind of saying all the things that they can't say out loud, and subtext and all of this kind of thing. Um,
I'll say one of the things that they should be saying to each other out loud. Pacey should be going, it's nice to see you, Tamara. Very surprising it's not behind a glass wall and
oh,
you're in a jumpsuit. Um, but it's very nice to see you.
I can't argue with that.
And
Like
then
in my
Tamara will be
head,
going,
like when I
yes,
watched it, I
I
don't think
should
it
be in prison.
bothered me as much as it should have because obviously he looks so damn old.
Yeah, I mean,
But when
that's the
you
point of it, right?
yeah,
It's supposed to be creepy and
yeah,
weird and wrong, yet
yeah,
doesn't immediately feel that way in the beginning, like right back at the start when it
yeah,
first did happen,
yeah.
because it looks like, oh yeah, there's an adult in a relationship with another adult.
Yes. Um, but yeah, definitely not great. So I totally agree with your thought of how that conversation should have gone. Then
Mm,
ultimately he goes to her warehouse and they have more subtext and kind of talk about the things that they
yes,
want to say that they can't. And then they try to kind of part ways and
and it
then
doesn't
end up
work.
coming back and sharing a passionate kiss.
Incredibly passionate that Joshua Jackson's getting all up and involved.
Yes. And ultimately, he says, "I know this is it, like, I'm not expecting anything, I'm not saying, that I still have feelings, yeah, of course I do, but I understand that this is not something that can continue."
Yeah,
So
it's a
they
bit
do
of
kind of
wisdom from Pacey. I
yes,
like that.
and they do get some really nice closure on the
They
situation.
do.
So
I think
he
it
so
is.
they set it up really nicely so that his mind is kind of free to pursue whatever with Andy. And so when he
Strangely enough,
goes and he's
Jeannine, this is the benefit of speaking honestly with each other.
exactly. So it's nice that is able to kind of just close that book with her. But he does go to Dawson, I think, after he'd just seen her. And Dawson kind of implores him, dude, like, stay away, don't do anything stupid. Dawson really like, you know,
Yeah,
doing
he
okay in
does.
these two, aside from the
Credit to
Joey
him.
stuff, but in terms of handling Jen and now kind of advising
Yeah,
Andy and Pacey, he's doing
he's
good.
doing he's doing
Um,
good.
so he
He's
fails with
growth,
Joey,
character
but he
growth.
yes, he fails with Joey, but he does pretty good with everyone else. And so Pacey's like, "Stay away, dude. I wouldn't touch that, but you should look into girls your own age who like you." He's like, "There's no girls my age who like me." And he's like, "Yeah, there was one at my house the other day." And he's like, "Who?" He's
Mhm.
like, "Andy. Andy likes you." And he's like, "Whatever. No, she hates me." He's like, "No, she likes you." And so then he's kinda just like, "Oh, okay," kinda thing. So,
Interesting.
yes. So,
I
yeah, well
wonder what's going to
right?
happen now.
Yes. So once he kinda gets this closure with Tamara, he ends up seeing Andy, and they kinda hang out, and it's a little cute kinda reconciliation moment, and, she tries to pretend like, "Oh, yes, I may have had to feel," and then, like, he plays like he doesn't it's a really cute scene in terms of, um Dawson told you, didn't he? And he's like, "What? I don't know what you're talking about." She's like, "He
Yeah.
told you." And he's like, I really don't know what you're talking about." And she's like, "Okay, I may have had a brief moment of feeling like I didn't possibly totally hate you. And I think it's gonna pass soon." And oh, there it goes, it passed. And kind of thing.
Yes.
And he's like, "Oh, you like me," and like teasing her, and it's a very kind of cute thing. So a
It is.
nice development of that relationship. I'm really, excited for, you to see where this builds to with the 2 of them because it's really cute.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine it is one of those very, very playful relationships where
Yeah.
they're just constantly nudging each other and kind of mildly annoying each other, but in a fun way. And that's kind of nice, I think.
Yeah.
I always like that sort of dynamic, to be honest. I
Yeah.
think it works strong. So
Yes.
whether it ends up strong, which it obviously won't because we're in season 2 and it probably ends horrifically. Um, but whether it does or not,
Yeah,
whether it
you'll
ends
see.
nicely, whether it ends
You
horrifically, the fact is it will end because it's this show.
That's just how the show works. But you will see kind of how this relationship develops, and so I'm excited for you to see that as well. But yes, we did talk about kind of what happens with Jack really showing this interest in
Yes.
Joey and the art, and so
Which
her
is
kind
which
of
is interesting little side in
yes.
itself. It really is.
Yeah, and them having like a fun dynamic of him working there and kind of being this klutz and that whole kind of thing. So her being able to have fun with Jack in terms of her interests and Dawson really just not understanding it or and he ultimately clocks that what's happening that she it doesn't like how he dismissive he is of it or like how he talks about it like
Yeah.
it's a hobby. So he does kind of try at the end to be interested and show that he cares about it, but it's like a little too little too late.
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
but I think he's actually showing real character growth. I said character
Yeah.
growth before, but I genuinely do think he is, um, in the course of these 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I was disappointed in the last episode of discovering Dawson's Creek to discover
Yeah.
that he had resorted immediately back to his old ways.
Yeah, to his baser instincts. But yeah, this episode and
Selfish and all
the
that.
last one, he grew even just from the last episode to this one, really clocking
Yeah,
how
yeah,
something is making her feeling and trying to course correct. But I think at that point, she's already kind of had her mind made up of like this conflict in terms of, you know, do I need to just separate myself from Dawson in order to focus on this new passion, and it's just me having a passion for something is not something that ever has happened before. Do I separate Dawson from that, or can I still have this relationship, but still give my all to this new passion that's driving me that I've never had before? So, yeah, Joey's kind of in a bit of a conflict with those feelings in terms of Dawson being her everything.
yeah.
So yeah.
It's it's interesting, you know. I'm interested to see where that does go. If it becomes a continuing problem for Dawson that Joey does
Yeah.
separate things going on, because it's healthy to have separate things. You need
Yeah.
separate things.
Mhm.
Everybody needs separate things going on. Um, it's said by anybody and everybody in all aspects of life and movies and TV, of course, as well, that couples who spend way too much time with each other just get under each other's skin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so in this sense, Dawson and Joey have always spent a lot of time with each other. Separate things can only be a benefit because it can bring you closer together in the times you are actually together.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. For them, Dawson might take another little bit of time to actually realize this fully, and he's just trying to placate, I guess, at
Yeah.
this point,
Yeah.
maybe. But at least I think there is actually intention there now at the end of episode 4. And I appreciate that way less annoying from Dawson in these 2 episodes as usual. So I like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting mix of things going on.
Yeah, so I think we're moving into some interesting directions. I'm reminded that we're going into some of my favorite episodes of season 2. So the next
Ah,
episode will be the moon episode where the moon kind of sways people in strange directions. It's kind of
a
this whole
werewolf.
vibe of a full moon kind of, I think the thing is, the moon pulls the tides. Humans are made up
Mm,
of however much water, so it kind of
okay.
pulls people in weird ways. So, that'll be an
So an
interesting
astronomy
upcoming.
episode.
Yeah, essentially. So people will be
That's
doing
so
maybe
wonderful.
strange things that they don't normally do because of the full moon, which is an
Are
episode I
there
am really
werewolves
liking.
involved?
No.
I
Sorry.
just
Sorry to
feel like there
disappoint.
should be.
There should be, I know, but I'm afraid not. And then upcoming even after that is an episode called The All-Nighter, which I feel like is the season 2 version of the detention episode.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Bit of a one location bottle
Yes.
episode sort of.
Yes. So this guy who has a big house says, "Hey, we have this big assignment. Why don't you all come over and we can work on it together at my house? My parents aren't there. I have a hot tub, da 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 da." And
Yeah,
so like there
okay.
are people there who want to do the assignment, but he's like trying to make it up like a party situation.
And
And
then it
it's just
turns into the movie Bodies, Bodies,
and
Bodies.
it's of course essentially. So yeah, so it's all kind of our key players along with a new character who's like a bad boy
Okay.
character who kind of comes in. And dynamics are interesting and there's kind of like fun games that they play that reveal things that people didn't know and that causes drama. And yeah.
What happened to Scott Foley? I want to see Scott Foley again.
Yeah, Cliff, no, Cliff is gone. Cliff that we saw the
Cliff's gone,
last
no
of
more
Cliff
Cliff.
Elliott. No more Cliff Elliott. Sorry.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
there's a shame. He got
Yeah.
left in the dirt, didn't he?
He did, he did.
Poor
Just,
Cliff.
pulled all around by poor Jen and then just disappeared. But I think
Poor,
he was older
poor
than
Jen.
them, so he might have been like a senior and graduated. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
I say poor Jen. Poor Jen is accurate. Poor Jen, who is so easily swayed.
Yeah, I
Poor
mean,
Jen
things only get,
is
more
a
difficult for
puppet.
Jen. So,
She's
I
behaving
will
like a
tell
puppet,
you that.
and I don't
The
like it.
more time she spends with Abby, the kinda worse
Um,
it gets. Which we also didn't talk about her story with Abby and the sailor guy, the
oh
fisherman.
God, no.
Ye
Yeah, we didn't.
yeah.
Let's briefly mention that because that was a little bit odd. That was creepy. The guy, to be fair to him, was very. I was applauding that man. To be honest,
Yeah,
when he
we're
was saying some
saying he didn't
harsh
like Abby.
truths about Abby.
Yeah. So Jen and Abby are out on the town spending all of Abby's allowance when they see a cute guy sitting at the table next to them. Abby is very bold and asks him his name and is flirty with him, but he seems like he wants nothing to do with her. Jen, who's saying nothing, draws his
Because
attention. And
this is because he doesn't want to go to prison like Tamara.
well, I mean, he obviously does since he's finding some interest in Jen. Um,
It's a good point, yes.
Yes.
Possibly.
His name is Vincent, and he seems more interested in Jen. They end up going down to the docks later to find him. They find him. Abby flirts with him. He's like, "You're just a spoiled little teeny bopper. I'm not interested in you." So he calls her a teeny bopper. So I think he acknowledges that they're
This was
teenagers.
the weird thing.
But
This
then
was
he
the
says,
creepy thing to
so then
me.
Abby storms off, but then he's like, "Well, I think I don't like your friend, but hey, I want to get to know you," da 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 kind of thing to
This
Jen.
is why I said he
So
doesn't
I
want
don't
to go
know
to
in
prison
terms of
because
teeny
he said
boppers,
that.
is he thinking they're like 18, 19? But even
I
still,
must I hope
dude,
so.
dude.
Even still, dude, a little bit weird, but at least not
Yeah.
actually prison. Like,
Well,
this is still actually
well,
prison.
well,
Oh God. Oh God.
Vincent is back in the next episode that you're gonna watch. So,
Prison. Prison involved. Please tell me it's definitely prison
you'll
involved,
see.
isn't it?
He's
Oh
back.
God.
He's back. Although
He should be
he
getting with Tamara, the other prison
Although,
inmate.
no, it is addressed that, Tamara knew how old Pacey was. He does
It's true.
not know.
Ah, well,
He
that's a
does
good
not
point.
know how old Jen is, and Jen doesn't tell him how old she is.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yes.
However, I mean, obviously as well, Michelle Williams doesn't look 15, 16.
No, she does not.
So
Um, so yeah, he will be back. Abby, and then ultimately Abby gets pissed at Jen because she thinks she stole
naturally.
her guy, and that was the guy she wanted, and so we do get some discourse between these two. So
Oh
yeah.
God. Stressful.
Yes. So how are we feeling thus far now that we're a little bit deeper into season 2? We're
Just
still
give me
liking it, we're still
Pacey.
into it,
Oh, we're
or are
still
you
into it.
already just, like, done with the back and forth?
I'm not done with the back and forth. No, I explained this. I don't like the back and forth structure, but the fact that I'm invested in what is going on and the characters themselves,
Keeps you
it
sucked
is
in.
keeps me there.
Okay, okay.
Um,
Well, the
give
moon's
me
gonna
more
be pulling
Pacey.
them. The moon
Yeah.
is gonna be pulling them on all kinds of ways next time we do this, so
Oh dear. Well, yes. Just give me more Pacey. Um, Dawson and Joey, okay, I can handle, but Jen at the minute, I'm just like
ugh, yeah, I hate this phase of Jen for sure.
away.
Yeah, yeah. Things will get more interesting for her for sure. Going forward, I think she ends up finding common ground with Dawson in a really interesting way.
Mm,
Um,
okay.
but but yes, this phase of her with Abby,
Mm.
it goes down some pretty dark paths. So that's all
Not
I'll say.
nice there. We will be back pretty soon, though, with
Yeah.
the full moon episode
Yeah.
and the subsequent episode.
The dance, I believe it's the dance. So we have another dance.
Another dance. Always dances, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know how many dances I had at high school?
How many?
One.
Were
It
there
was
more? You probably just went to one.
no one. It was called prom. It was at
And
the
did you
end.
go? Did you even
Yes,
go?
yes. It was at the end of the last year.
So
There
you don't
wasn't
have
a
school
dance.
dances or formals or Sadie Hawkins, nothing
We had more
boring.
school dances when I was in primary school than in high school.
You guys are just no fun suckers.
They were fun when we were children, not when we were
Every
teenagers.
party has a pooper. That's why we invited you. Party pooper. Party pooper.
That's not a very nice thing to say because I don't believe that's accurate. But there you go. We'll leave it there on that horrible insulting note. And we'll be back with Discovering Dawson's Creek in a couple of weeks for the full
Yes.
episode and the dance that you'll just judge me for. And exciting. We're
Yes.
into it. We're always into it.
We're
It's
always into
Dawson's
it.
Creek.
Yeah.
We can't not be. It works. Jeannine, anything else we want to say?
No, I think that's it.
Well, of course, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe, in your notification bell, of course, up there. Find all the links for the social medias, the Patreon donation links, merch links in the description down below. Of course, subscribe to the main podcast feed. It's a wonderful podcast wherever you get
Yeah.
your podcasts for the main show, of course, celebrating old movies. Noirvember in November, exciting times.
Yay.
Morgan hasn't seen On-Screen Opposites in November. Monday Madness is there, of course, as well. You can find that in full video form on the channel here, of course, as well. And yeah, social medias are down below as well. Everything's been scrolling down at the bottom of the screen anyway,
Yes.
all episode long, but we will be back very soon. Exciting times. Discovering Dawson's Creek continues. There is only one thing left to do, Jeannine. And impressions.
We don't typically do impressions on here. I don't
We
think.
don't.
No.
We don't. Maybe the odd Dawson whine every now and again, but
Yeah.
really that whiny.
No, he was pretty solid these episodes.
They were good Dawson episodes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
just go ahead in whatever way you see fit.
3, 2, 1.
Bye.